That's true.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ensuring Success 2024, Day 2 of the Great CPE Marathon. We're so glad that you're here with us. I am Gail Perry, Editor-in-Chief of CPA Practice Advisor, and I'd like to, before we get started, thank the sponsors who are making this event possible for us, and they are ADP, Avalara, BotKeeper, Canopy, CPA.com, eFile4Biz, WriteWorks, SafeSend, Suralink, Wolters Kluwer, Xero, and Zoho. And in particular, we'd like to thank ADP, who is sponsoring this session right now. Then also, I would like to take a moment to explain to you how CPE works if you're just joining us for the first time. What we do is 3 times during the session, we put a code on the bottom of the screen. It's a 3-digit code. And to make sure you're paying attention, because you need to write that code down, you'll hear this sound. Okay, and when you hear that, you'll write down the code. You'll do it 3 times after the session is over, and that can be later today, it can be tomorrow, it can be next month, it can even be next July. You'll go to the Ensuring Success site, and CPE is on the top menu. You just need to click that. You'll be taken to a page where you enter all the codes, and that's where you download your certificate. So you want to get all the codes for any particular session before you try and download a certificate for it. Okay. This, also, just a few other housekeeping items. Right under where you see us, under the video, there's a box that says Ask a Question. If you have questions for our speakers about the topic we're discussing, you can enter it there, and it'll come right to us here on stage. And then also, if you have any questions about tech, CPE, anything where you need to converse with somebody, use the email address that's displayed there, which is info@EnsuringSuccess.com, and we have people standing by to take any questions you have coming into that email address. I think that's all of the housekeeping. One other thing, we're on social media at #DecemberCPE. So you can find posts from yesterday there. You can add to the posts today if you'd like to take a picture of us or of you watching us and post it on Twitter or X or your favorite social media. Use #DecemberCPE and we'll see you there. All right, this session right now is called the Secure Act 2.0 and its impact on retirement planning. There's going to be a lot of meaty information for you, so we hope you'll enjoy it. I'm going to introduce our speakers really quickly and then have them tell you a little bit about themselves before we get into the topic. So our speakers today are Vaughn Long, Ron Ulrich, and Sean Duncan, and my co-moderator, Alexander DeFelice. So I'll have each of them tell you a little bit about themselves, starting with you, Vaughn.
Well, good morning. My name is Vaughn Long. I am with Tax Solutions Alliance. It's my own specialty firm, and I'm new to this process of working with my clients on planning for retirement, so I'm hopefully representing a lot of you out there on this discussion. So,
all right. Ron.
Excellent. Ron Ulrich, I'm from ADP Retirement Services. I'm the Vice President of Product Consulting and Compliance, and I work with plan sponsors and advisors and accountants and CPAs to help understand the regulations and the options that are available to them and try to help them make the best decisions in setting up and running their retirement plans.
Nice.
Good morning. My name's Sean Duncan. I have a whole conglomerate of companies. The ones that are relevant here is I have a CPA firm that specializes in advisory. That's SMD Consulting and Accounting here in Dallas, Texas. My second company is I have Helping Hand RIA. That's actually my wealth management security side of things, which will be relevant to what we're talking about. My third company is Chief Proactive Advisors, which is where I teach other CPAs how to move from that compliance work to the advisory work. And then there's a whole bunch of others that I won't bore you with because, again, I'm trying. Jackie Meyer, you're listening? Yes, I am trying to collect as many companies as I've got.
And I'm Alexandra DeFelice, Director of Marketing and Business Development for Payne & Fears Law Firm in Southern California. I previously worked for several accounting firms. I am not a CPA, but I hang out with them on television for the last 2 days, and I am co-moderator with Gail and designated bell ringer.
All right, so we're so glad you're here with us today. We've got a lot of information to cover regarding the Secure Act and what's been changing. We want to start with a discussion about RMDs, required minimum distributions, because that's changing and you're all going to want to know about that for your clients. So I think we're going to jump in here. Who's going to be first?
Ron, you want to roll?
Sure,
Yep.
sure, yeah. I mean, RMD, big changes, right? I feel like we had RMD rules that didn't change for 20, 25 years. And then starting with Secure 1.0, the RMD rules changed, and then Secure 2.0 added some more changes. So the biggest one is obviously the age that you need to start taking your required minimum distributions. It used to be 70 and a half, now it's 72. and that started in 2023. So anybody who turned, 73 in 2023 is now subject to the RMD rule. So it used to be 72 under the original Secure Act,
exactly,
right?
yeah.
That kind of took it. So now 73, and then it goes up again in 2033 to 75, right? So it jumps up in 2033 to 75. So just a important note, right? As people start having to take those RMDs, there are still significant penalties for not taking your RMDs. That changed as well, went from 50% to 25%, and even down to 10%. I think if you report it timely and you make up the RMD amount, so you can limit the amount of excise taxes that you're paying on your RMDs if you haven't taken them. But a good thing to start talking to clients about, right? If they haven't taken their RMDs, make sure they're taking them. Abate the penalty tax if you can, and make sure you're complying with those timelines.
Oh, just let me jump in. Just a reminder: if you haven't been doing RMDs with your clients, it's the age is as of 12/31, right? So it's 73 now as of 12/31, and you don't have to take your first RMD until the April of the year after that. So you could be taking 2 RMDs in 1 year, your first year.
Your first year, yeah.
Okay,
Good
all right.
point,
And of course, the rule that says it's 75 in 2033, it's going to be 75. Well, hey, in 10 years, I don't know if any laws are going to be the same. So it could be 95 in 10 years from now. So just if you're planning, plan, but also know that it's a dynamic plan.
And I made the mistake of an assumption that there'd be some gradual difference in the age of the 10 years.
No.
It's a straight shot, right?
Yeah.
It's 73 now. It's 75 in 10 years. There's no ramp up period per year. So that was like, oh, I just made that assumption and made that mistake. So I wanted to
Yes,
say
because we're used to phase outs. It's like all the complexity.
Correct,
Yes,
yeah,
it's actually
so
a simple rule. It's really
our
weird.
tax world, right? We're used to phase outs. Great way to say it.
The other interesting thing, too, that I want to make sure everyone's aware of is that beginning in 2024, Roth amounts in 401k plans are no longer subject to the RMD rules while the participant is still alive. So that was a big change, right?
Yeah.
And there was a difference there between IRAs and 401k plans where IRAs didn't require distributions from Roth, but 401k plans did. So they synced up those rules. So that's another planning opportunity now.
Yeah.
We do see people shifting some of their money from pre-tax to Roth to now avoid RMDs if they want, if they don't need the money immediately and they want to save it for either tax planning purposes or for inheritance purposes. So.
Yeah, and for higher net worth individuals, that's a big deal because depending on what your bracket's going to be at that point in time, that we want those different buckets of money so we can play with them and have a proactive plan to the wealth management the same way we do proactive tax planning.
So I tell you what, the three of us were talking. This next section, the tax credits to motivate small businesses, their practitioners. This was fascinating to me. I didn't know if you wanted to pop on that and then talk about the auto enrollment period, because this was news to me on Secure Act 2.0.
So, we can start. There's a lot. So the thing to know is for the Secure Act, just for you guys that are listening, we can't cover every rule, right?
Yeah.
We're going to hit different high points and things that we think are interesting. What I found fascinating, because we focus so much on proactive tax planning, is how we start stacking these rules. And I'll get into that possibly a little bit later. But the first thing is tax credits. Everybody loves tax credits. And so now they've got that new rule. And I think you've got a really cool chart with it that is available, that brand new 401ks can get the tax credit for 3 years. And then there's a kicker if you get another credit of $1,000 for every employer match. So there's a lot of kind of free money just to incentivize your employees to do it. So it starts with tax credits. Just let's give you that money, and then it goes from there. I know that, Ron, you had a whole bunch of stuff and really good math.
Yeah.
Your
cheat
chart
sheet.
was great.
Yeah. Maybe we could bring up the chart and we can give a good example of this. So to Sean's point and Vaughn's point, it's really a great opportunity for the small business owner to get subsidies right from the government to start up a retirement plan and give their employees money. It's I don't know how many often they get that opportunity. And so here's an example of a small business with 10 employees, one owner. The startup tax credits are available in the first 3 years, of starting a plan. You never could have a plan before. If it's a brand new plan, it doesn't matter how long the company's been in business, but the plan is new. You can get up to $2,500 a year, and it's $250 per non-highly compensated employee. So if you take an example, let's just say an estimated plan cost is about $4,000 a year, $2,500 worth of the startup tax credits, And if the plan adds automatic enrollment, there's a $500 tax credit each year for automatic enrollment as well. So you can get up to $3,000 right there in tax credits just for starting up the plan. So your net cost in those first 3 years is $1,000 on a $4,000 plan. In addition to that, if you make contributions then for your employees, you can get another credit of up to $1,000 per each employee that you give a contribution to. So if you have 10 employees, it's another $10,000. And this is a credit, right? It's a credit against your taxes. It's not only a deduction. If you can't take advantage of the full credit, you could still take a deduction like for that extra $1,000 that you have to pay. So you can still do both. But it's a credit right there. So this, employer, for example, that's $44,000 in net credits that, they're getting from the government to subsidize a retirement plan for themselves and their employees.
Great.
What I think is kind of funny is how they interplay with the different rules. So you get that $500 credit for auto enrollment, yet Secure Act 2.0 just set a rule that you must auto enroll. And so it's like, you have to do it, and here's money. Which, please keep throwing me money.
Here we go.
So there's a credit that's built in automatically
Yeah.
if you just follow the rule that you have to automatically follow, which I think is kind of cool.
And are these credits just for 401ks or 403b or any of those?
401ks, 403bs, simple IRA plans would qualify, SEPs. Okay. Yep. Opportunities there for all the different plan types.
Cool.
The auto enroll. The fact, again, we were prepping, blew my mind. A couple things, right? That 10 employees or less can be exempted from the auto enrollment. But if you're 11 and up, you have to do this. This is not an opt-in choice anymore. Stunning.
Yeah.
I just didn't see that coming. When
What's so funny is the way the rules are written. I don't know about you. I end up reading these things and going, oh my gosh, what does it mean for me, the employer? Because of course it's expensive to set up these plans. That's why the tax credits are so valuable.
Great. Yep.
So we were breaking down the rules, and it's so funny as Vaughn and I were just double checking some stuff, and we almost like confused ourselves because we're like, wait, isn't that the rule? And we're back and forth. And what I mean is, the rule says that auto enrollment is when an employee is eligible, they must be enrolled, and they start with a 3% immediately, and it goes up 1% per year up to a maximum of 15%. Now, what I first thought as an employer was, oh my goodness, I have to give a 15% raise to everybody?
Correct.
Hold on. It's employee deferral percentages. It's the employee is required, and the employee can opt out of that mandate, but at least it's guaranteeing you're going to get 3%. That's going to happen, and they're going to automatically move their money over. So it's not the employer's money.
Right.
But I always put that lens on as the employer. We're the tax people. We're trying to help our employer clients, not our employee clients sometimes.
Yeah.
So it is 3% is immediately deferred from their compensation, and it goes up 1% per year to up to 15% up until the point the employee goes, whoa, I don't want to defer that much.
Correct. They have choice.
They have choices.
Yeah, and they can opt out even initially, right?
So the
They can opt out
employer
at any
isn't
time.
mandated, and that the employer is mandated to make sure the stuff happens, and if there's matching, budget the matching, of course.
Correct.
But yeah, we were sitting there in circles like double checking and triple checking just to make sure that we were giving you guys the right information, but it's the employee's deferral is mandated. The employer's portion is based on whatever your plan docs say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so that was a little bead of sweat that just went right off my eyebrow.
Well, now that 1% per year allows the employee to budget, right? And so it's a huge help, whether they can defer out or not at that point. But that budget helps just to kind of spread that out.
Yeah, and there's lots of research too that shows that they tend to not do anything, right? So that's the idea behind automatic enrollment, is that people tend not to take action, right? So the inertia is, well, I get automatically enrolled, and then they don't realize that 1% increase each year, right? So they're putting way more for themselves. Important to note, this is effective January 1st of 2025. So that's when any plan, right, that's subject to this rule has to start automatic enrollment if they didn't have it already. And the other big exemption is if you had a plan in place before the signing of Secure Act, which was December 29th of 2022, you are not subject to this rule. So it's only new plans after December 29th of 2022 that it had started. And there's a few exceptions if you have like mergers and transactions, but basically that's a big population though, right? So any new plan now that starts after 1/1/25 has to have this immediately as of the beginning of the plan.
So Sean, I'm a deadline guy. So if this is required starting January 1, 25, what's my deadline? Is it December 31st that we need to set these things up?
Yeah, but essentially
we
you
got
have to have the
time.
plan provisions in place. Exactly.
Right? Clock is ticking, right? Yeah. I don't want to make a BOI joke, but
Well, related to that, I think I want to ask this poll question that we had for the audience. And these poll questions are not for CPE. This is optional for you to answer just to gauge the audience. But you're worried about this. So the question was, when are you going to speak to your clients about this, right?
Good.
And the options were, when they ask me, I'll respond. After tax season, I'm doing end of year planning meetings right now, or I won't because I don't do advisory work, or I have no clue. So when is, I mean, they're freaking out. Should you be proactive, Vaughn, or should you just hide your head under the table or the Christmas tree if you have one, or the
Well, I have that
or the
option too.
menorah?
we can retire?
You know, I'll say my first instinct, and then I back off from it, is, oh, when they sign their tax return. But we don't always meet with everybody. And so now it's like, how do I balance that out? I know in my firm, I'll just admit it to everyone, I rank my clients. Because if you don't go in some particular order and you have your own ranking reasons and so on, I'm going to start my way at the top and work my way down, and making sure that my core clients, I'm having these conversations and moving my way through. That may be different for Sean in your office as well, but that's probably how I'm going to roll it with mine.
So we're subscription based. So
Okay,
our firm is based on giving advice as the year is going.
Yeah.
So
and I'm learning this part, right?
Yeah. Timing wise, now this is a great upsell opportunity. I mean, this is a phenomenal chance for you to say, hey, I have this extra service and here's how it's going to work. We do it subscription based, so we're having the conversation, but timing still matters. It's not an end of year 2024 planning topic, so we're not incorporating it into this year's conversation. We'll give them the teaser and say, hey, that's part of Q1's meeting or January's meeting, because our clients are either monthly or quarterly on their regular meetings. And so the consultant will go in and roll that out probably in Q1 to say, all right, here's what we're doing, here's the strategic thinking about it. The most important point that struck me about this ties to the employer contribution part.
Yeah.
If we're advising the business owner, what am I telling them? You have to do it. Okay, you have to do it. Fine. The thing that I'm most interested in is, what is this going to do to your payroll costs? If you have a whole bunch of low-earning workers that typically don't participate, and then suddenly 40 of them are required to participate at 3%, and you have a 3% match, you just gave 40 employees a 3% pay raise.
Correct.
And so when I'm having that conversation, it's about budgeting for 2025 on what that's going to do to your total comp. Because honestly, a lot of employers just, my employees aren't going to do it. This is really for me. And the one or two employees that mess around with it, well, that's immediately going to change by mandate. And that's the part that I think is going to be the most important and impactful to our clients that are business owners.
And that's 3% on top of whatever raise you were planning, because you're not going to
Raises?
get, you're going to be, okay, thank you for this
Overrated.
3% match, but hey, what about my paycheck too?
Yeah.
So it's only on top of that from a planning and budgeting perspective for that business owner. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was just going to add, I think it's a great point. So like as you mentioned, you're getting into this, right? And you've been doing this. But if you're not talking to your small business owners about retirement, somebody else is, right? Somebody else is going to call them. They've got advisors out there, right? Somebody else is going to bring this up. So even if you're not specializing in retirement, like to be able to speak to these things, if they have a retirement plan, at least start the conversation. Hopefully you pick up some tips today, right, from us about how you can do that. But I think it's important to have the conversation.
I have a lot of very strong opinions about the wealth management piece, but that was yesterday's session. So
Wait a minute, really?
Yeah, I know. I'm full of stuff.
Okay, before we move on, we want to take a really quick break for a word from our sponsor, ADP. And when we return, we'll show you the first of your 3 CPE codes for this session. So. Okay, we're back. Remember, there'll be 3 breaks during this session. Each time you'll get a 3-digit code for CPE. The first one is appearing on your screen right now, so remember that, write that down, and we'll be back with 2 other 3-digit codes later in this session. All right, we're ready to move on past RMDs, I think. What's next?
Before you move on, I will say that the survey results was that 33.5% said that they're actually doing the year-end planning meetings now and talking about it. 23% said, I don't want to have anything to do with it, and 22% said when they ask, I'll respond.
That's about right.
Now, strategically speaking, this is important. I say this a lot. We're all peers. Like, we all work together. If you really don't want to mess with this stuff, find somebody that does.
Oh, partners, right?
Oh my gosh, the referrals. I don't do tax prep anymore. I send all of my tax prep to other firms because we focus on the advisory work. We offer it as a service to the clients, but that's a referral. That's not a natural referral. People don't think I'm going to send my tax work out. But if you don't want to do this and you want Vaughn to answer all the questions for you, hire Vaughn as a subcontractor or send that work and partner up, because there's a lot of ways we can help each other out. And CPAs forget that. We get in this competition mode, and this is one of those beautiful little segments that, if I am not learning Secure Act, forget it. Right. Vaughn's a guru. He knows everything. He's memorized it all.
They may just think, well, my client asked me, so I have to come up with an answer.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily the best answer.
And I think that's a theme throughout the 2 days, is there's so many things. And if you're a small firm, if you're a sole practitioner especially, but if you have less than 20 people, which most of our audience does, they can't physically do all of this, right? So rely on your peers and just expand. They can become an expansion of your own team, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And usually, small employers have a team behind them anyways, right? And so, if you look at, ADP is in the record keeping business, right? And so there's also a record keeper, maybe a TPA that's working. So that partnership, I think, is really important. Pull in the experts, right? When you don't have to be an expert in anything, but you need to know when, right? So if you need to know when to pull them in, and then pull them in when it's appropriate. I think that's
Do what you do well. Well, I don't even touch payroll. It's like I joke that I'm like freaking CPA and I don't do my own payroll. It's because you can do it. You're welcome to it. But it's highest and best use of our time, right? It's what is the best use of my time, and finding other people that love it. Because believe it or not, people love doing the stuff you hate. Find those people and let them do that. Yesterday's session, Nicole and we got done. We're like, oh my gosh, we can send so much work back and forth. Because if you were watching the session, we do the same thing at different segments. My client base is different than her client base, so we were immediately setting up an appointment to send work back and forth. And so I think
Didn't she say she loves payroll?
She loves payroll. Yeah.
But we don't say that out loud.
Yeah. It's okay. I mean, that's heavy drinking involved. So yeah.
There are some other parts of Secure Act when we were prepping. Both of you were like, you've got to know this. What were some of those again that you guys wanted to cover?
Ron had a lot of cool ones.
Oh yeah, there's like we said, there's so many things. There was over 90 provisions in Secure 2.0.
So
right,
memorize that by.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
We got 30 seconds each. Go. No pressure.
Yeah, exactly. No pressure. Well, one of the big ones was changes in the ability for participants to actually take money out of the plan, right? So from whether it's emergency withdrawals, there's a terminal illness distribution available now. There's a domestic abuse distribution available now. Long-term care. There's qualified disaster distribution. So, on the kind of flip side of the coin, from a personal planning perspective, it really does open up the ability, for participants to get to their money if they do need it, right? And that's going to do two things. One, it's going to try to get participants over the barrier of starting to participate, right? Like a lot of the challenges are getting people into the plan. But from a perspective, some of them don't like the fact that their money is tied up until retirement and they can't get to it, right? So these are some options for participants to be able to get to money if they need it. We had some disasters recently, especially the hurricanes in Florida, and we had a lot of participants that needed money and they were in a bind, and it was a great opportunity for them to do that. Now that money normally would come out and it would be taxed and penalized, right? So these distributions all carry a waiver of the 10% penalty tax. So it is a way for participants to get money. What do you guys think about these?
That's
it's still
the thing.
taxed.
Yes. A lot of people will read it and go, "Oh, good, it's coming out free."
Just not the penalty. Yeah.
It's really just not the penalty.
Well, you mentioned that we were kind of enjoying the fact that emergency distribution is $1,000 every 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have, to your point, someone who's going through a tragedy like that and needs to pull that out. That's an opportunity that wasn't there before Secure Act 2.0.
Yeah.
Well, what's the disaster one? It's like 22,000 or something like that.
Yeah, 20,000. I believe
20,000. So there's different reasons. It's like the first time home buyer rule. We could all take money out at certain times. Now I call the $1,000 rule the stupid rule because it's usually because I did something stupid and I need cash real quick. It's I can go do a car loan, sell my title. You get $1,000. And they've made the rules way too complicated. For $1,000, man, just tell me every 3 years I can take $1,000.
I did simplify it just to make it easy for all of us.
I
Right?
can take
There's more
$1,000, but if I pay it back, then I can take that portion back.
Yeah.
But then I have to inflation adjust, and then if it's a full moon, I'm on my left foot. It's $1,000.
I have an emergency break-in.
Okay.
We just got word that the first CPE code that we posted was incorrect. And so we're going to break right now again and just display the real first CPE code for this session. Doesn't have a second ring. All right. We just want to make sure that you get this one. Ignore the first one we sent you. This is the real code for this session. Write this one down. There will still be two more, and continue.
Well, and to be fair, we used ChatGPT to generate the code, so that was our fault. Sorry.
It fooled us.
That was a qualified disaster
Yeah, it was.
recovery
Where's
right
my
there. Right?
$1,000?
Nice, yes.
We've done it. We've done it.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. Yeah, but it's a great point. The $1,000, once every 3-year period, if you repay it, you could take another $1,000 after a year. And so the concern is like this could become too easy, right, to get. But it's very complicated. It's tax. It has a lot of record keeping to do with it. But if somebody does need, their hot water heater breaks, it's in the middle of the winter, they need heat, right? It is an opportunity for them to get a small amount. A hardship distribution, which is the normal way you can get money out, there's no limits, right? So instead of somebody, limiting it to $1,000, so there may be some use. It is, it's kind of stupid sometimes to think about.
It's
how
like you've already got all these
complicated it
other
is.
reasons. You can have real hardships. You can have the long-term care. You can have, oh yeah, by the way, here's $1,000.
It's $1,000.
But hey, it's cool. You want $1,000? Go do it. And it's not usually a planning conversation I'm going to have.
No, not
for $1,000. But it's nice that it's there because there are those emergencies. I think you use it's the if I need new tires. That's what it's there for. It's truly like that one random little emergency.
And the owner of the firm probably not going to be utilizing this, but the staff, that's where it's going to play into, right? That
Exactly.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. That's good.
What else do you want to hit?
There's a lot of audience questions coming in.
Yeah,
Do you
let's
want
try
to
it.
take
Yeah,
a
let's
little?
take
Sure.
Excuse me, a little segue here. Do these new rules affect existing SEP plans in which contributions are traditionally voluntary each year?
Yes, most of the rules apply to SEP plans as well. And so a SEP is a simplified employer pension plan. It's generally employer contributions only, so they wouldn't be subject to the automatic enrollment rules because there is no deferrals in it. But they would be subject to some of the other ones. One of the ones we didn't even talk about yet is the employer match and NECA's Roth, which would be available now. So a big change in some of those plans is the ability to do Roth contributions, right, which were never available.
Great stuff,
And deferrals have been available for a while, but now matching contributions and non-elective contributions could also be made as Roth, and that would apply there as well. So it gives a really good opportunity now for the business owners to be able to kind of determine how they want those contributions to make. But most of the rules do apply to SEP plans.
Related to SEP, it says, can you start a SEP by April 15th, 2025, effective for 2024, and still get the new plan tax credit?
Yes, you can. If you're, that is a good question.
hairs.
Yeah, one of the rules that did come out of Secure 2.0 was the ability to establish a plan for the prior plan year if it's done by the employer's tax filing deadline. So as long as they establish the plan before their tax filing deadline, they can make a contribution still. Let's say they do this in April or March, let's say, maybe if they have a March 15th deadline, do it in March of 2025 and make a contribution for 2024 and still get the tax credits then for the new plan startup.
Now, I want to throw, go ahead.
Does it have to be by March, or can it be with extension?
With extension. With
Okay.
extension, yep.
So one of the cool things, this is now definitely a planning item for me. So historically, SEPs were used because that was the one vehicle that you can do in 2025 to apply to the 2024 tax year. So it was a really nice flexible tool, except SEPs have their limitations. I can only do 20% on the sole proprietorship, blah, 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 blah. You guys know the rules. But the Secure Act allows us for those solopreneurs, so single member LLCs and sole proprietorships, that in the next plan year, you can set up a 401k. So now, here's a fact pattern. $100,000 of net income. So with a SEP, I could put $20,000 away. It's a great little tax savings. But what if I don't need the cash? I want to put $69,000 away. I want to go ahead and push the whole limit. I can, instead of doing a SEP in March, I can do a 401k in March. I'd have to amend some payroll, right? Because I'd have to do the salary deferrals.
Correct.
But then suddenly I profit share on my, again, sole proprietorship, single member LLCs. Now I can do $69,000 for the 401k. And oh, by the way, I just got some credits because I have a new startup credit.
Exactly.
That's some
That's where those
really
credits,
cool
right?
planning.
Yep.
So if you've got those clients that are really wanting to punch a bunch of money in, and yes, there's tax savings, but they want to punch a bunch of money in, and they were limited to only SEPs. Now we can play the game with the retirement accounts and the 401ks. That's cool. Not for S corps, not for partnerships, not for C corps, but for those solopreneurs that were getting ready to switch to S corps, this is a great little silver bullet they can hit in the first quarter planning.
I have one more SEP question, and then there's still other questions.
There's only 35 questions? Come on, guys.
I know, Vaughn's on another session later, and we're predicting about 200 questions. He's actually going to take
gosh.
my computer. I'm not lying. Okay. Does a SEP with no employees qualify for the tax credits?
No, they would not, because you need to have non-highly compensated employees in order to get the tax credits, so that they would not be able to take advantage of the tax credits.
Does the startup tax credit apply if you're closing one plan and opening another?
So you get the startup tax credit in the first 3 years of the plan, but any plan of the employer. So if you had a previous plan that was in existence for more than 3 years and you stop that and start another one, you will not be eligible for any of the new tax credits, right? It has to be a brand new plan of the employer.
Which really, it bums us out. Like for me as an employer, I've been doing 401k forever for my employees, which is cool and great for them. And I'm looking at this going, I'd really like several $1,000s.
Right.
So the people that were already doing it, you're kind of hosed. So lobby your congressman.
Real quick, you mentioned Ralph earlier, and you talked about advisory. We're talking about our owners, right? And there's an opportunity, I think you can really generate some positivity with the owner, is mention about their older teenage kids to start a Roth IRA now because they've got earned income. Teach them to do this. It's not a lot of commission. You're not going to make a lot off of this. But the win you're going to get with the owner because you're looking out for his kids. Everybody wants to do better by their kids. Yeah. Hey, get that Roth. Get them used to that now and something like that. You just mentioned it earlier and just came to mind. Something we're doing in our practice, and it seems to go really well. Oh, yeah. And it's the right thing to do, right? Hey, let's teach our kids earlier.
Well, and you can hire your kids. I mean, in the state of Texas, actually, you can hire kids at the age of 0. You can, I'm not making this up. No, you can't.
Out of the womb.
You can't put them in the coal mine yet.
Soon,
but you can actually make your kid a model. And then if you want to W-2 them, and then you can form. It's hilarious the way the rules.
Are you planning the daycare sign up first or the Roth? Or hiring? I'm just curious.
He wants the deduction.
You can do college reimbursement programs in businesses. It's all kinds of cool. But when hiring the kids, I do it largely to teach my kids that exact same thing.
Exactly
it's like, here's the value of this retirement account, and then we have the Roth conversations. And the fact that the new rules allow us to make owner contributions or employer matching as a Roth contribution. That's pretty dang cool, too.
We want to hear more about that right after this break.
Okay,
perfect.
So we're going to take our second break. We're going to hear another word from our sponsor, ADP, and when we come back, we'll be here with the real second CPE code for this session. See you in a minute.
Your employees are crucial to your company's success, so how can you help them successfully plan for retirement? With ADP, you'll feel confident that your company's retirement plan will keep them on track, starting with digital enrollment. We make enrollment easy, guiding your plan participants through a personalized experience so they can start saving in just a few clicks. Employees can use the My ADP Retirement Snapshot tool to design their own path to retirement, estimating their total retirement savings based on their specific goals and the monthly amount required to reach them. Once enrolled, plan participants have access to an intuitive retirement readiness tool to track their progress on their savings journey. To get a more accurate overall picture, it allows participants to include other savings and investments, Social Security income, and more. Participants also benefit from the ADP Mobile Solutions app, keeping them in control of their pay, benefits, and retirement savings with access to everything they need anytime, anywhere. When it comes to achieving retirement readiness, we make education a top priority for millions of plan participants. The ADP Achieve Financial Wellness Program helps employees improve their financial well-being with a multi-touch education curriculum, as well as optional plan solutions that help drive retirement readiness. These solutions are delivered directly through your retirement plan, allowing participants to easily manage their financial lives, including personalized emails, retirement success webinars, and a podcast to encourage healthy savings habits. Plus, employees can use our financial wellness library to become more fiscally fit, with a wide range of topics from debt management and budgeting to saving for a home and more. To further support financial wellness, plan sponsors can also offer a student loan retirement match, participant advisory services, and a retirement income solution. At every step, you can rely on ADP to make offering a retirement plan easy, from experienced implementation and service teams to industry-recognized security that safeguards sensitive data. You can also count on ADP's next-gen integration with our payroll and HR solutions to increase efficiency and save valuable time. From a single dashboard, you'll have direct access to critical retirement plan data and the functionality to manage your retirement plan and complete important compliance tasks. With all these features and more, you'll see why ADP has been recognized year after year and administers more than $138 billion in client assets. There's a better way to help your employees get retirement ready, and it starts with ADP. Learn more at adp.com/401k.
Hello, welcome back. And at the bottom of your screen, you should now see the second CPE code for this session. So be sure to write that down along with the first one, which was this, you know what I mean. Anyway, there'll be one more coming before we finish up. Okay, we were just making a few comments about Roth IRA before we took the break. Where do we want to pick that up?
Keep rolling.
Yeah, I think so. We brought up the the fact that you can now do employer contributions as Roth, which was never available. And so just to kind of give a little more information around that, the contributions that the employer makes had traditionally gone in pre-tax. The money was then taxed when it was taken out by the employee. Well, now the money goes in from the employer side. It's actually taxed at the plan level now, right? So there was a big question with Secure 2.0 when this came out: was this going to be a payroll issue? Was this going to be a a W-2 issue or a 1099-R? And the IRS came out with guidance this past year that said, no, it's going to be taxable actually at the plan as a 1099-R. So the money goes into the plan, it gets converted immediately from pre-tax to Roth. Now the participants then, normally when you have a contribution that goes in, there's withholding that would help to pay for some of the taxes. The important thing to note on the employer matching that is Roth, there's no withholding. So the amount that goes into the plan, if it's $5,000, you have to now pay taxes on that $5,000 currently. So it's an important consideration to think about as employers, if you're thinking about adding this to your plan, or as a participant, you're thinking about making these contributions. Just keep in mind, you have to have the money to be able to pay the taxes on that contribution then at the end of the year. And by the way, you're not going to get that 1099-R until January, of the following year. And that's when you're going to need to have the money to do it. So it's a great planning opportunity, right? And it does allow you now to start thinking about, when you're going to pay taxes on this money. And, a lot of people I talk to I have money now because I'm working, right? Maybe I don't want to pay taxes in the future when I don't have money. So it's a good opportunity there, I think, and something to keep in mind.
I know that when I was reading these rules and really learning it, it's like that nuance I had to read a second time to make sure I hit the major points. And the major points for me, and this everybody takes something different. For 401ks, SEPs and Simples, different rules. For 401ks, it goes in as a regular contribution and gets converted. And so it's not subject to withholding in Social Security because it's not a payroll thing. That's a big deal. That affects us as the accountant. But the fact that your client's going to get a 1099-R, that was a quirky little rule. I wasn't expecting that to be the way they did it. And that's just one of those very simple things. You send your client writing, by the way, you're going to get a 1099-R. Because when they get some weird document next year, they're going to lose their mind. And like, what did you cause? And what did you do? And that's going to cause taxes. And now my kid can't eat and whatever. But those two functions is it's not hitting payroll, and you're getting a 1099-R. And that's a big deal for us accounting nerds to know and discuss with the client. And so that's the part I had to reread. SEPs and Simples are different. This is just the 401ks, but the fact that the employer can put it in as a Roth, that's a pretty big deal. That's a lot of cool money.
There was an element that was potentially going to be part of Secure Act 2.0. So this is about what's not in there for a moment, and it's related to Roth, was backdoor Roth. There was a discussion at one point about maximizing, putting a limit how much you can do with a conversion of a tax deferred to backdoor Roth, and that's not in here. It never passed. There were discussions, there were articles out there, I read it in Forbes, but it never hit. So it's just more of a FYI. I thought it might come from some of the discussions. So maybe that's 3.0.
Yeah. Next year when they do 3.0, I'm going to learn it all over again.
They didn't like the backdoor part. I think that was the problem.
That's right.
The IRS didn't like the fact that
they don't. They're not a fan of that, right? No. So it's on the radar, but it's not in there.
Well, they know it's a loophole. I mean, they know that we're gaming their system. And it's like I tell clients all the time, is like, we take broken rules and use them against other broken rules to your advantage. That's what this is. The backdoor Roth's a broken rule. They didn't intend for it to be, but we find a way to work it. On the Roth channel, I keep saying SEPs and Simples are different. SEPs and Simples now, both the employee and the employer contributions are eligible for Roth. So if everything wants to be Roth, those are kind of cool too. So
there's a question about who pays tax on the Roth match, the employee or the employer.
Yeah, we get that question all the time because the employer now is thinking that, I've got to pay taxes on the contribution. It's not. The employer makes the contribution just like they did. They don't care, actually. The employer doesn't care whether it's pre-tax or Roth. They're going to send it right into the retirement plan. The retirement plan is going to account for it. So they don't pay taxes on it, and it's still a deduction. They get the same deduction that they do today. The employee then will pay taxes on that contribution in the year that it's made to the plan. So if they make a contribution for, let's say it's for, we'll jump ahead a month, and let's say 2025 for 2024, the employee will pay taxes on that money in 2025.
Love it.
Yep. Good question.
Yeah.
Vaughn's looking like he wants me to go back to the question bank.
No,
so.
we're good. We're some good stuff.
We're just enjoying Vaughn as the moderator.
All right.
How
Gail
does
just
this work? I'm just
she keeps
hanging-
putting
I
her
don't-
hands behind her head.
I thought a
relaxing.
moderator had to have a hat.
I mean, we
It's
can
pretty cool.
let you borrow one if you're interested.
You look better at it than I
Going
do.
back to you, Sean, since you're talking about the simple plans and now it just disappeared, do the auto enrollment rules apply to simple plans?
That's a wrong.
No, they do not apply to the simple plans.
Yeah. It is just a 401k.
401k and 403b. But
Now,
yeah,
a quirky
401k,
little rule
403b.
too that I thought was kind of cool is I'm not a fan of simples. I mean, I think that the name is misleading. They actually cause just as much work as a dang 401k, but they're not as easy as a SEP. So
They're not so simple.
They're not so simple. But in mid-years, this act allows you to change from a simple to a 401k mid-year. So if you're like me and you see a client walk in, you got a simple, I'm like, I want that to go away. We can now do that. We don't have to wait till the end of the year and start a new plan. Simples can be converted mid-year.
Well, then help me with something real quick. This may be for one of you, because the story out there in classes I've been was Simple had less fees in the 401k. You use a Simple when you have employees, right? SEP typically is for solo owner, and Simple with employees, it's less fees, and then the 401k. But with the tax credits in it, can you speak to that? Because that's why I think people default to thinking I got to do a Simple now that I have staff.
The less fees is partially true, but realistically, I just set up a safe harbor 401k.
Yeah.
And the fees are so de minimis. And again, I use ADP for mine, and it's just I hands off. The fees are so low once I've got the safe harbor. I'm not doing a lot of testing. We're not dealing with the complexity.
Got it.
And that 12,500 limit. I mean, really, if you don't want to do a SEP, which is basically free, you're usually moving because you want to put more into a plan. So the SEP to a 401k is a natural migration. The Simple sits in between, but really it causes all this headache and it's all this paperwork, and I got to do the matching. And yeah, I saved a little bit of administrative fees, but I'm still doing the work to do it and make sure that I'm doing it right. And then I can only do 12.5. By the time I've graduated from SEP, almost all my clients, and again, my client profile, almost all my clients, it's time to just go ahead and do a 401k. And the safe harbor is the bridge that we use before the Simple. But yeah,
You're just spelling myths for me today, guys.
Well, and
this is the thing.
I'll add a few things if you don't mind.
Please.
Your points are spot on. I think the administrative costs in the 401ks have come down. The Simples could be cheaper. Simples usually are limited in the investment options available, where in your 401k plan you could
That's a
really
great
open
point.
up investment options.
Yeah.
You could have self-directed brokerage accounts. You can have other things. 401k plan, you can have loans, right? You're not tied into the contributions. If you do a safe harbor, you're tied into it. But if you have to even stop a safe harbor during the year, you can, where it's a lot harder to stop a simple plan, right, during the middle of the year. So there's a lot of flexibility, I think, with 401k plans over the simple plans. And we actually have seen a lot of employers switch from a simple IRA to a 401k plan now in the middle of the year, because the contribution limits are prorated. It's actually interesting how they did it, right? You get kind of a prorated version of the simple IRA limits and the 401k limits. So it's always going to be more in a 401k plan than it is in the simple IRA. So some employers are like, I'm having a good year. I want to make that change now, start up the 401k plan, and then they can make additional contributions throughout the year. And it's really a benefit to them. And it's not that much more expensive compared to the amount of flexibility that you get, I think.
And we're
in the
talking
401k.
hundreds of dollars. That's it. Like the year, over the course of a year, a simple cost saves you hundreds of dollars that year. I'm not
Without
freaking
the tax credit being taken
without
into
even conversation of tax credits. So now we get the bonus
so it
prize.
flips it on its head now.
To save $300, $500, even
So we're not
$600
talking-
a year
Yeah.
by going simple versus 401k. It's just not moving the needle in a material
Now,
way.
if you don't want to do a 5,500, set up a simple plan, right?
Yeah. There is that.
I mean, there's a few things that come. The fiduciary responsibility comes with the 401k plan. It's a little more. So not everything, right? There's still a place for simple for sure.
Yeah.
But I think in that balancing act of, how much flexibility you have, what options do you want, and
Now, let me
there's ways
rephrase
to do it.
that. If I don't want ADP to do my 5,500, because I still don't do the dang thing anyway.
Yeah, I would work,
ain't
right?
touching
Yeah,
that
yeah.
nonsense.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah, you
that's
can
the thing, is
outsource
that's
that.
why
Save
you
that
have
headache.
your administrator.
There's
But
a long list of things that Sean doesn't want to do.
so
Well, when he wraps it out, it goes under the table.
Now,
to be
actually,
fair, right?
now when we
else
start
does it.
talking about I want to travel, I got Disney, I
Right.
got video
Play
games
video
to play.
games,
I mean,
yeah.
I got stuff to do. It's just not.
There is a follow-up question on the safe harbor, which is, does the employer still qualify for the tax credits if they set up a safe harbor 401k?
Yeah,
It's still
absolutely,
401k.
Yeah. it's a great way to do it because the safe harbor contribution you're committing to, right, for your employees, and so those tax credits are a great way to offset that. And it actually, so if you think about, part of the 401k is the non-discrimination piece, right? So safe harbor gets you out of non-discrimination testing, but you have to make a contribution to the plan. So when you start up the plan, get those contributions in, it gets people actually participating. That will help then years down the road if maybe, once the tax credits expire, if you can operate the plan without the safe harbor and still pass testing, it's a great way to get started.
And the safe harbor is amazing when you have an employer that has employees that are not going to participate. Because if you have the safe harbor, the employer can at least still do their full salary deferral and any catch-ups. Yeah. And if nobody else participates, you're not failing testing, so you, the owner, still get to at least put the money in. Got it. Whereas if you have, well, now we're about to have mandates where everybody's going to participate, so that's going to solve it. But the safe harbor is a great bridge when the owner wants their own 401k and they know their employees aren't going to participate. It solves that problem. And so that's where a lot of times we end up setting them up.
Okay, we're going to take another really quick break, another word from our sponsor, ADP, and when we return, we'll have your third and final CPE code for this session. So we'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you will see the third and final CPE code for this session. Sean?
I got so nervous. Your hand was shaking.
Your paper ring.
I just want to also mention real quickly, this session had a lot of, or still has, a lot of useful information in it, so much you may think, I'd like to get to see that again. We will be displaying all the videos after the event's over. It's going to take us a week, 10 days or so, but you'll get an email notice when all of the videos are posted on our site. Also, there are resources for this session that we're going to send everyone who applies for CPE credit for this session. So we'll have your email addresses there, and we will send you all the goodies. So we're going to start with coming back with what are your favorite things about the Secure Act that we want to make sure we cover?
All right, I'm going to start on this because something blew my mind, right? Like when you read an article about Secure Act 2.0, it talks about this great new thing that you can convert leftover 529 to a Roth IRA. I was super excited, right? Like I'm going to tell everybody about this until I read the details. Like, oh, I can't just have 20 grand left in the account. I can just flip it to a Roth and go. There are rules you have to hit. What was it, 15 years? You have to have the account open. There's lots of limitations to be aware of. So it's getting all this publicity. However, there's a lot of steps to go through. A lot of hoops,
headline
right?
says cool, and then you read the details and go, oh.
It's like a footnote too, right? Yeah, cool, but then right at the bottom, you're going to have some trouble with this.
Yeah.
So that was the one thing that jumped out to me.
It could be a trap too, right? Because if you do it, right, you could do it. If you don't meet all the rules, you're going to have tax implications down the road. So,
is there any reason someone should not spend out their 529 to wait for this Roth conversion, or if they've got someone in college, let's just use the 529 first, and hey, if you got leftover money, it's nice to do the conversion, but
we've actually had this conversation a lot because again, we do the wealth planning portion. Yeah. It is truly a case-by-case basis. Okay. It's what is happening in your family, in your household. Do you have a grandkids you might want to roll the 529 to, or another sibling?
Okay, yeah.
Cash flow, tax brackets. There's a lot of stuff. This is one of those moments you absolutely want your wealth manager talking with your tax person. It's part of why strategically we put it on all under one roof, is because I got fed up with wealth person doing something that screws my tax plan up, or the tax plan not supporting what they're happening on. So it's keeping that together, but make sure these people are talking together because there are tax and wealth implications. And back to partnering up, if you don't have a wealth manager you trust, find one. That partnership can be very powerful, not just about referrals, but really acting in the best interest of your client and being a real fiduciary. And that's one of those moments. It's like we are having the conversation of like, what do we do with this plan? And we might have a different strategy for the next kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Because your situation will change and adjust.
And I'll make this quick, but we had a conversation with a client who was like, you know what, I think at this point, cash flow wise, I can pay for college.
Yeah.
So I'm trying, now with Secure Act 2.0, maybe we wait for the Roth, but then when we asked more questions, he was using a credit card to make some of the payments. And that was when we're like, no, let's use the 529. Let's not try to wait for the Roth as this panacea opportunity if you're going to be using other means to
and when
pay
you're
for
versatile,
it, right?
when your cash is your versatile, flexible money for everything else that might happen, it's your emergency reserves. If you start draining that down,
Retirement?
Yeah,
Are
like
you
the
still
last thing
retirement?
yes, the last thing I want you to do is wipe out all your cash, not put your money into your retirement, and then you have to do a distribution from your 529 for an ineligible expense because you had to fix the water heater because you already used your $1,000 on the tires or whatever it was.
All right, so that was mine. So
That's a great one. I like that one.
Yeah.
what you got?
By far, my favorite is the tax credits. I mean, clearly, the ability to have subsidies, government subsidized retirement plans for the small business owner, for the employer gets a benefit, and the participants get a benefit. It's absolutely by far my favorite. But there's one that we didn't talk about that's my favorite that starts January 1st. So I'll talk about that. It's the super catch-up, as we're calling it. Yeah, and that's the ability for employees who are ages 60 to 63 to be able to contribute more money to their retirement plan as an extra catch-up contribution. So that's why we're calling it the
But
super
if they're
catch-up.
64, they can't do it.
In the year they turn 64, they go right back down to the regular contributions. But it's 150% of the regular catch-up contribution limit. So I think next year it's like $11,250 rather than $7,500 for employees in that age bracket, and a way for them to pack a little more in. So as you're working with clients, right, next year, make sure they're taking advantage of all the opportunities that they have to get more money into their retirement plan to save for retirement.
Love it.
I have a couple answers, but my favorite really is the fact that we can do the 401k in Q1. I can do that now after the fact, and I can stack a tax credit on top of it. So that's a pretty powerful whammy. Since we already talked about that, my other favorite I'll go ahead and throw is actually the lost and found. So the Department of Labor is now required to have a resource where you can go and say, where are all Gail's old 401ks and IRAs? Now, as a wealth planner, like when we're doing wealth management, a lot of times we're like, okay, let's roll all your stuff together so we can know what's going on. And somebody's like, well, I work for so-and-so and I don't know where that is. I don't know how to get it. Now we can go discover. So there's a lot of people who have commercials that will sell you, you can go find your lost tax credits. Well, now you can go find your lost 401k. I think that's kind of cool. Now, will the Department of Labor do a good job with that? Not quite sure. But technically, the lost and found, so if you have a client that says, I know that I've had 72 jobs in the last 6 years and they had a little plan, you can go find all those little orphan plans and then figure out what your solution is. So that's a good opportunity to
love it.
help them
Usually
out.
gives you a place to start.
Yeah, it's just a database to go dig into. It may not be perfect, but it's better than just guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we have time for a few questions, and then we're going to be just a couple
We
minutes
do,
left.
but actually, I like to always go back to money. And I have a feeling that Sean put in these parentheticals about scheduling a billable meeting to discuss these things, because there's, again, this common theme of giving away too much for free.
Yeah.
So if you do have the knowledge, like, how do you approach the client to say, we talked about the timing, but like, what are the things that one or two things that the audience today should go back and say, this is what you should do with your client, and how to monetize that?
Okay. So what are one or two things you should? I absolutely love that if you guys make a chance to have the conversation about this. Set up a meeting and say, look, there's a bunch of things. Let's talk about doing Roths. Let's talk about switching from simple to a 401k. Let's talk about, should we hire your kids? All this stuff that we just threw out lots of random ideas. Schedule the billable meeting. Go make money on this. This is the very simple upsell. And I know we're about to roll into tax season and everybody's going to just hate everything. And bookkeepers, I know January is going to stink with all the 1099s. But Q1's kind of a cool time to do it. If you can't, if it's impossible because of schedule your May meetings. Go ahead and generate revenue for May. But all these things we've chatted about, think about who it applies to, how it's going to apply to them, and then just schedule a meeting. If you don't know what to charge, please don't charge by the hour. Set some sort of a fixed fee that's greater than that, because they're going to ask you follow-up questions anyways.
Great
but
point.
make those appointments, make yourself some revenue. It's worth it. I mean, when we're talking about you can create a tax credit and might get somebody $5,000, Yeah, charge them $500 for a
Yeah,
meeting. There's nothing wrong with that. Charge them $1,200 for a meeting, depending on the size of the
Well,
business.
and lead with that, right? Like, hey, there are tax credits we can help you get. Yeah, there's a fee for the meeting, but this is going to be far more return for you with these credits.
it.
And now you're flowing right into the conversation. They want to have this conversation.
And a fee for the analysis if they want you to
Sure.
dig deeper. Because guys, you're not going to do all the math in the meeting. It's like, let's do the meeting as an exploratory 500, but typically it's $80 million to do the dig in, or whatever you want to charge for it. But it's your time has value, but don't charge for time. Charge for the value that you're bringing. It's extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all so much. What an incredible session. Lots of information. As I said, we're going to be sending out resources on this to those who attended, and you'll be able to replay it and share it with other people in your firm if you need to after we post this up on our site. Really great session. And thank you to ADP for sponsoring this. And we are going to be back at the top of the hour with another session called CAS, C-A-S, What's Your A? And we'll find out what that means when we get back at the top of the hour. Thank you all. We'll be back in a few minutes.